Karate Kid was a blockbuster 1984 martial arts film, which has spawned several sequels and a 2010 remake. It was a great fit for an NES beat-em-up, which is what we would end up getting in 1987. You play as Daniel's son, with the objective of kicking everyone's ass that gets in your way. There are 4 levels, but really there's only 3, because the first is almost like a tutorial. You fight 4 guys in succession in the martial arts tournament, and then you move on to the platforming portion of the game. It seems as though the first stage is the end of the first movie, and the rest of the game is based off the second movie, although I've only seen it once and it was a while ago, so bear with me as far as the details go. So how does the game play out? Well, it's kinda terrible. The first problem is that your jumping controls are stiff as shit. Pressing up on the D-pad gets you jumping because A and B are for punching and kicking respectively. Transitioning your thumbs from the left and right directions to up for jumping has never been smooth to begin with, but it's not very responsive either, so you're often feeling like you're walking on quicksand. And in some cases you have to have pretty quick reflexes, so this just magnifies the problem. Even making a jump over a simple pit takes more conscientiousness than it should. Another issue is the hit detection. You have to time your attacks pretty spot on. It's even worse with inanimate objects that fly towards you than it is with the guys that you face off with throughout most of the game because they're faster and less predictable. Plus they're a smaller target. Fortunately those don't do any damage, but that's a detail I'll get into later. It also sucks that you have no recovery time and you get sent backwards about 40 feet each time you take a hit. Enemies will come from behind a lot of the time, so you're bound to get caught in a clusterfuck of damage, which you don't deserve for getting hit just once. There are more difficult games in the NES library, but this one's pretty difficult, and none of the difficulty is challenging in a fun way. It's all frustration. So you feel more relief than reward when you get past the tough part. The boss battles are lame as shit. It's the same guy every time, chosen. They just make him more difficult in each stage, and he fights just like the jamokes in the tournament at the beginning, so the first stage is basically a prelude of the boss battles. The soundtrack is pretty bland. It's not horrible, but it's very simple, and since there are very few levels, there's a small number of songs. The graphics are actually okay looking for the time, but the animation is pretty sloppy. So yeah, all in all, the game really sucks. So let's play through it. The first stage, like I mentioned earlier, is just 4 battles with gradually more difficult opponents. There's not much strategy to it, just time your kicks for when they get to about a kick's length away and let them have it. You and your opponent each have a life meter. If you drain all of your opponent's, it's on to the next fight. If he drains all of yours, you lose a life. One thing that does go against you is that your amount of health carries over to the next fight. So if you want to get through this unscathed, you're going to have to beat all these blokes in succession. The second stage takes place in Okinawa. It's the first of the side-scrolling levels, and there's a map gauge in the upper left-hand corner which basically indicates how far into the level you are. Walk to the right, kick the ninjas, and grab the crane kick power-ups anytime one pops up after killing an enemy. They don't stay up for long, so hurry up. The crane kicks you can pull off by pressing the B button alone. Using B and the D-pad at the same time is your regular kick. The crane kick is just basically a double kick from the crane stance, so you don't have to be as stingy with the timing. But why the fuck did they make the special move the B button, and your standard weapon is the B button plus a directional pad on the D-pad? Shouldn't it be the opposite? Grabbing the C icons will not only add crane kicks to your inventory, you start out with 4 by the way, but it also adds health to your life meter. So these are important. Keep in mind that you're better off being at the low level than your enemies. It's much easier to connect this way than try your hand at these low level sweeps and shit. So if you can, jump over them and get to lower ground. Also keep your eye out for these potted plants and cabbages that these guys will throw at you. And sometimes they seem to come out of nowhere behind the trees. Wiping them out will award you with 100 points. Whenever you see one of these open doors, jump into it and you'll be taken to one of the bonus rounds. Try your luck and hopefully you'll get some shit to add to your inventory. One of the bonus rounds is the swinging hammer. You have to use drum punches to dodge it. It's a pain in the ass. The second is the ice block break. Press A or B when the meter is maxed out to break all the blocks. The higher the meter, the more blocks you'll break. And the last is the chapstick fly catch. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Use the D-pad to move Daniel's son horizontally and the chopsticks vertically, and press A to snag some flies. Try to catch as many flies as you can in the half-minute or so time limit. Each bonus level will give you points, crane kicks, or drum punches, depending on how well you do. 6 is your max at each bonus stage. 6 dodges of the hammer, 6 flies caught, or 6 ice blocks broken. The better you do, the better your bonus. The drum punches are basically spinning punches. They're really powerful and much rarer than the crane kicks because you can only get these from the bonus stages. So back to the game. After much of the same repetitive bullshit, you'll arrive at the boss, Chosen. He fights the same as the guys from the tournament. Just unleash your kicks when he gets close, preferably your crane kicks if you have any, about 4 shots and you'll be done with him in no time. The third stage is called the Typhoon Strikes, and it fucking blows. Literally, this monsoon keeps pushing you back, and a lot of random shit flies at you, like sticks and birds. Thankfully, like I mentioned earlier, these objects don't damage your health, but they do knock you on your ass, which can be deadly if there are other ninjas around. It could impede your progress and cause the ones you've already beaten to respawn, or worse yet, it can set you up for some double teaming, which can really fuck you up. Or you could just be susceptible to falling down a pit. So, needless to say, stay away from this flying shit. Just like in the last stage, be sure to head into the open doors for bonus levels and grab the monkey here for a health refill. When you get here, first stay up here and sweep these guys down below. They won't be able to reach you. Then take the lower path. It's easier to deal with just the ninjas than the flying shit plus the ninjas, even though you'll be in constant danger of falling into a pit, so don't let yourself get hit here at all. And be careful jumping over the pits. This whole segment is annoying as fuck. After you get through that, grab Mr. Miyagi and fill your life meter up completely, just in time for the boss, the second battle with Chosen. He takes about 8 shots to kill this time. There's a little girl trapped atop the ladder, and you can actually finish the level by climbing up and saving her without having to win the fight. The fourth and final stage is the final battle with Chosen. Thank God, because I'm getting sick of this asshole already. Along with all these other ninjas I've seen a million times already. Only in this level they take 2 hits each to take out. And they throw rocks. Great. This stage seems to take place on a mountain, and here you'll get random boulders rolled at you from off screen, and these guys carrying spears. Make sure you hit them before they get close to you, and after 1 hit they lose the spear and essentially become a regular ninja. A lot of this stage involves climbing up and down. Follow the general rule of thumb and try to keep these guys at a higher level than you. And if you can, jump over the ones that are lower and approaching you. As usual, slip into the open doors for bonus stages, and when you get to the end, it's the final battle with Chosen. Same shit as before, about 8 shots to take him down, and don't worry about slipping off the edge, you can't. Kick his ass and save the unnamed girl, who I can only assume is Kumiko. Mr. Miyagi congratulates you, and that's it. It's a very short game, although considering how bad it is, it's probably a good thing you don't have to play anymore. And oh yeah, one minute detail I forgot to mention, this was another LJN game. Now I know what some of you are thinking, LJN didn't make this game, they just published it, and that's true, it was developed by Atlas, but that's no excuse. Responsibility has to come from the top down, and LJN has a knack for hiring shitty developers to develop shitty games based on blockbuster movies a lot of the time, with the intent of cashing in. It's obvious that their intention isn't to create a quality product. Is it any coincidence that they have so much crap? Angry Video Game Nerd labeled LJN as laughing, joking numbnuts, but considering how little LJN gives a shit about the quality of their product, they should be relabeled for their approach of, let's just not give a shit. But if responsibility should come from the top down, then a share of the blame here must go to Nintendo itself for putting their stamp of approval on not only this piece of shit, but the many other pieces of shit that LJN has distributed. How many chances do they get here? This one in particular is one of the more broken games, and just feels like it was rushed and unfinished. And unfinished is my recommendation for how you play this game. Don't bother finishing. That's what she said. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.
Nothing's gonna ever keep you down.